What is up, everyone? It is your boy KJ Limited. Today I'm back with another episode of Spill the Tearal, episode 10, and this is a podcast where we go over some JRPG news, releases, mechanics, what I've been playing, want to play, and more. And this is a big 1-0. I really want to get to this episode because I believe there are about 10 episodes of Shotlocked, and also is the first double-digit episode, which is exciting. But also, this episode is not special. I'm looking at the rundown. It looks kind of sad, to be honest. I know I've been saying this for the last few episodes, that the episodes might be shorter. This is another one of those where I'm going to be saying that because there are straight up multiple segments which have nothing in it. Which, that's a sad reality. But before getting to the podcast proper, just to go over some housekeeping shit, which is where I just talk about whatever the hell I want to. One of the things is, I've been mentioning this in my last few episodes, but, I've been participating in Ramadan, and it is now over, so I should be able to get back more into the flow of things, so I'll be able to play more games and talk about them like I used to in my What I'm Playing segment. I haven't been able to do that for the past few weeks, including this week, so that should be going back to normal. And I apologize if I do seem low energy. I'm not sure if I am because I'm running on 1 hour of sleep, so I'm kind of dying inside. So that should also be fixed by next episode too, hopefully. And one thing that I noticed last episode, I'm not sure why I was doing this, but it was very obvious if you're listening to it probably. Maybe you wouldn't have noticed this if you're watching it, but you'd still hear it probably. Is for some reason during the episode, I was doing this pretty often. I'm sure you can tell by the sound difference what I just did, but I was like moving away from the mic to talk a lot. I'm not sure why. Like, I noticed while I was editing it, I would literally just like move to the side, which is very stupid, especially for a podcast, especially with this type of mic. If you're like even like a couple of inches too far from it, you'll be able to hear the difference. And that's really fucking annoying when editing it. I'm very sorry if that was annoying. So I'll try not to do that. I'm not sure. That was only last episode. I'm not sure why I was doing that last episode. But when editing it, that's just something I realized. So sorry about that. I'll try not to do that again. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Yeah, like I mentioned, I'll be doing the gaming stuff again, as in playing games and talking about it. Hopefully I'll be able to do like more of it because during the last month I have been kind of increasing my workload more. Like yesterday, I just want to talk about this, but yesterday I worked from 6:30 a.m. to about 4 a.m. with like a 2-hour nap break in between. I'm like, I was dead. I was like dying. So like, I don't think that's gonna be the norm, but usually I was working like 7-8 hours a day and then like using the rest of my day to like play games. But hopefully that'll be the normal again where I get to play games again. But yeah, work hours have been insane recently. And before we get into the podcast proper, I've been doing this the last few episodes, which I kind of like, where I just show some random thing that like I bought or I have, and I want to show this too because it is special to me. But I bought this. Let me just turn off my camera's autofocus tracking thing, which is, I'll explain it to the audio listeners. It is the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood complete Blu-ray collection. It comes in like 2 cases, as you can, I'm trying to see here. And yeah, 10 discs, all 64 episodes. And something that I found out, because I've recently been getting a bit into Blu-rays, something that I found out is, for some reason, the North American region, whatever it's called, I think it's called Region A, they don't have good selection of Blu-rays for good prices comparatively to Region B, which I believe is like the European region. Like, this is the entire series. It's in one package, and I got it for, I want to say like 60-ish bucks, maybe even 50. I can't even remember right now. If I want to get in the North American region, just getting part 1, so just getting like one of these was like about $100, and then I would have to buy the second one for like another $100. So it's fucking stupid. I don't know why. I've seen this for multiple different series now, like especially in anime, because that's the one I'm getting. And so like, it's freaking weird. So I had to buy, like, me and my brother bought like a Blu-ray player that's a multi-region. That was fucking expensive. And so like, it's a whole thing, but I'm very excited to have this. This is my favorite anime series I watched in high school. I haven't watched it since then, which is why I wanted to get this. I'm also like currently kind of very slowly rereading the manga too, because I read the manga once. I read the manga once or twice, but I'm kind of rereading that slowly too. So yeah, I love this series. It's like to me a perfect series, and so I'm very glad to have this. Especially like these days, you kind of notice that some digital stuff is going away. The PlayStation Store has been doing that to movies. Some games have gone away from the PlayStation Store. I think Crunchyroll removes anime once in a while too, and like I think Full Metal Alchemist is like old enough where it might be at risk of that happening. So I don't want to lose my viewing privileges of this, so like buying this kind of ensures that I can watch it whenever I want, which is super nice, especially since it's been like more than a decade since I've watched it. I think I was like in grade 9 or 10 when I first watched it, and I haven't watched it really since. I just watched like episode 1 from this to see the quality, and it was really good. But yeah, that's something that's super cool to me. And before getting into the episode proper, I've been doing this the last few episodes for absolutely no reason. There's no actual reason why I'm doing this. I just think it's cool where I have this deck of Spirited Away cards. I'll pick a random card. Today is a 4 of Hearts, and we got one of the bad guys. I think she was a bad guy. I can't remember. This old lady. This is the old lady with the big ass head for the audio listeners. And yeah, on that note, we will start off with the first segment, which is what I've been playing. Now, in terms of the what I've been playing section, like I already mentioned in the intro, I have been playing nothing. I've had no time. I haven't had time to sleep. I've just been working or just been tired. And so, yeah, I haven't played anything. I have been, okay, to be fair, I have been playing stuff. I do play stuff for work, like for my other channels, but none of them are JRPG related. Like I play GTA, I play other party type games. I've been playing Content Warning. I'm sure that's the game you guys have heard about if you're kind of in the circle of like new trending games. But like it's very much like Lethal Company, but I think better. I like the game loop of it better, where instead of like finding things and selling them, you have to go out with your friends and record a video and try to hit a certain view quota by the end of the few days. So like it was really fun. I played that, and yeah, but I'm not gonna go deep into it. These aren't JRPGs. Just want to mention that I haven't been playing JRPGs. I just haven't been playing those games as part of work. But yeah, there is nothing in this segment, which is why I think it's gonna be a very short episode, because there's another segment like this. But let's go straight to the next segment, which is the JRPG that I'm looking forward to. Now, the JRPG that I'm looking forward to, it technically is not a Japanese game, it is a Chinese game, but this is a game that I've had my eye on, but it is the Black Myth Wukong game. Now, this game to me looks fucking fantastic. It looks very cool. It is a game based on Sun Wukong, which is like the Monkey King, and you've probably have consumed some media based on this character, the biggest example being Goku from Dragon Ball, where he is based on Sun Wukong. I believe God of High School, the main character, is based on this. I've read a bunch of webtoons that have some kind of Sun Wukong influence. I've listened to music that is based on this man too, so like Sun Wukong is everywhere. And the funny thing is, while I know, little bits and pieces of Sun Wukong, I haven't ever consumed any media of him that was actually the Monkey King himself. It's always been like something that's based on him, like Dragon Ball or something like that. And I have read stuff where Sun Wukong was a character in it, but like actually being able to play as him or have Sun Wukong as the main character, I've never experienced. So this is gonna be super cool to me, and I'm very excited about it. So it is a Chinese game, like I mentioned, and let me just read the logline real quick. So Black Myth Wukong is an action RPG rooted in Chinese mythology. You shall set out as the destined one to venture into the challenges and marvels ahead, to uncover the obscure truth beneath the veil of glorious legend from the past. And what's very interesting to me is like pretty much the premise, from what I can tell from what that says, and like I kind of skimmed through the trailers, which is you are the destined one. So the thing is, what's gonna be exciting for me when I play this game is I don't know the Sun Wukong story. So like while I have watched Dragon Ball, things like that, like the actual Sun Wukong like original story, I don't know what it is. Like I don't know if there's a bad guy, what the bad guy is, what his story is, what his character arc is in me. I know nothing about that, so that's why it's really exciting. But from the trailer, it seems like he is a destined one, and it's known that he's a destined one. So like he meets multiple characters in the trailers, and they're like, "Oh, so you're the destined one. Let me kill you," pretty much like that. And I believe one character even said like he doesn't, like that Sun Wukong doesn't even know why he's a destined one, which is interesting. So like I'm interested to see what the destined one even means. Like, is it related to some prophecy? Because there was a character at the start kind of making like a mural, and it seems like that was like a prophecy about Sun Wukong. So he is a character that is some kind of destined one, and he does not know why he's a destined one or like what that even means. So I think that premise alone is very interesting to me, and I think I mentioned this in previous episodes, but like I play games for the plot, and the plot is something that just seems very interesting so far. Not even to mention like the visual style and gameplay, which looks super cool too. So like I think like this game is just looking fantastic from like every way possible. Other things to talk about from the trailer is they show a fuck ton of enemies in the trailer, and they look super cool. I've mentioned in the past with Souls games, which I'm not a huge fan of, that I'm not a big fan of the character designs too, where like I'm sure if you've played all the Souls games and you're really into it, that their character designs probably do make sense, or like there's probably meaning behind them, hopefully. But as someone who doesn't know the lore or anything about it and just comes to the games, their character designs, at least the enemies, do seem kind of like mishmashy to me, because I just don't have a trained eye for the games. So like whenever I see an enemy from like Elden Ring or like any of the Dark Souls games or whatever, it just seems like random, gruesome, fucking weird people things and fingers and shit like that. Like to me it just seems like gruesome for the sake of being gruesome from like my untrained eye. Whereas Sun Wukong, already I can tell that it's probably being based on mythological creatures that are actual creatures from like Chinese mythology. So like I have some examples written down here, but there's like, they show in the trailer, there's like this weird bird which has like a head of a human. I'm sure that's a thing. There was this weird like enemy which had like like eyeballs, like huge eyeballs just hanging off of him. Like that was his head, the eyeballs. That was very weird. There were bosses that was pretty much just like a standing tiger. There were snakes. There were weird ass beasts that were like kind of skeleton like, and they have horns. There was a big ass spider. There was a big ass bug you kind of flew around on, which I believe was a bad guy. There were multiple dragons. There was like this whale looking thing. Like the thing is, like they all seem like they're weird creatures, obviously, as like some of them I explained, but they're grounded enough where they actually feel kind of cool and almost creepy. Like that standing tiger is just a tiger, but like more like human like. And that's cool. Like I prefer designs that are more simpler rather than more complex for the sake of being complex. And the fact that you have bad guys which are just like a human looking bird or like a human looking tiger, like I like that. That's pretty cool, because like Sun Wukong is just like a human looking monkey. And so just going to it and knowing that a lot of these enemies are probably based on actual mythological creatures from like Chinese mythology, I think it's going to be something that's more enticing for me, because they do have some sort of backing for why they look like the way they do. Whereas with Elden Ring, and again, I don't know if they do have like some actual backing to Elden Ring's designs or like Dark Soul games, but comparatively, I think the designs in Wukong for me have been more interesting and have been more enticing for me to actually play at some point. So yeah, those are some of the creatures that I noticed. In terms of combat, I saw some comment in some of the trailers. It looks really fucking cool, because Sun Wukong, as you probably might know, he uses a staff, kind of like the Power Pole in Dragon Ball. And one of the signature things about the staff is that it can resize. So one of the things that I noticed in the trailers that Sun Wukong did, which I thought was really fucking cool, is he was fighting a boss, and when the boss was about to attack him, I believe he used a staff, hit the ground, extended it so he would dodge the attack, then like flip and land again. And that was super fucking cool. Like I can't wait to see what moves he can do with the staff. I wonder what the limitations are. Like how long can it go? Can you like use it as a long range weapon to like attack enemies? Like I have no idea. Like I don't know, like it'd be super fucking cool. Like I want to see like them use the staff in very interesting ways, not only like in cutscenes but in gameplay too. Like I can see some super fucking dope cutscene moments, like if you're fighting a beast and you shorten the staff and you put it in a beast mouth and extend it to fucking just kill it by like spearing it through the head. That'd be dope. Gameplay wise, like the dodge mechanic I just talked about. There was also a very cool gameplay thing, which I'm not sure how they would balance this, but there was a bad guy pretty much shooting a fuck ton of projectiles at Sun Wukong, and he just pretty much was spinning his staff and just blocking all the projectiles, so it was like pretty much his shield. That was super cool. I'm not sure if I've seen that like from the games I played, so I feel like they're using the staff like properly, and it seems like they're using it creatively too, which is super exciting to see, and I can't wait to see more of that, because I feel like if they have like a skill tree system for this, it'd be really fucking cool to just go through the skill tree and see what you can unlock for the staff and how it can be used. Another thing I also noticed, I didn't see it in combat, but it was in a cutscene where Sun Wukong had a glowing whip. I want to say I heard somewhere in the past that that's also like an iconic weapon of his. I'm not 100% sure, but that is something I noticed, so maybe that's something you'll get to use at some point too in terms of combat. But again, I never saw it in actual combat use. In terms of environments, the actual visuals of the game, I think they look beautiful. Every environment pretty much from the trailer that I noticed, it was like natural environment. So like it was like a snowy area, it was a forest, it was a beautiful like a spring going by the forest, things like that. Like it looks really fucking cool. Like less urban areas and more like natural areas, which makes sense if this is based on Chinese mythology. I'm assuming it takes place in olden times. I believe in the trailer set somewhere like is based on the 1500s or something like that. So I'm really liking the environments. They seem super cool visually. It looks really fucking good. I'm really liking like the vibe of it too, because in the cutscenes they have like voice acting and stuff, and it seems very anime, where like some of the creatures have like these goofy voices, which I like. I'm not a huge fan of like purely serious games, so the fact that it looks kind of real, but then everyone's kind of like a weird animal, and then they have kind of goofy voices to go along with that. Like I'm really digging the atmosphere of the world, which is nice. And I believe that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about, because I just like looked at the trailers right now, because this is a game that I've been looking forward to, but I didn't really look into it at all. The only reason I'm looking into these games is because of this podcast, because usually I like knowing nothing about a game before I go into it, but because of this podcast, I'm kind of using it as an opportunity to kind of dig slightly deeper into the game and talk about it. And so that's why I know about this game, and it is coming out on August 20th 2024, which is pretty near. It's not that far. It is like a few months away. And so yeah, when it does come out, hopefully I'll have a chance to play it and then talk about it here. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, Black Myth Wukong, super cool. I wonder why it's called Black Myth 2. The name sounds really fucking cool to me. But yes, that was the segment of a JRPG I'm looking forward to. And let's move on to the JRPG news. For the JRPG news segment, like always, I source all my news from Gematsu.com. So if you want to check out the articles, go to Gematsu.com. And we got some news here. None of it, I would say, is like huge news. They're all kind of like random, smaller pieces of news, at least in my opinion. There's nothing like very important that like I felt like I need to cover. I just picked the stuff that I thought was kind of cool. One of the first things I want to talk about, technically this happened last week, but it happened after I recorded the podcast. But a new demo is out for a game called Saga Emerald Beyond. And I just want to mention this because it looked really cool. I've known about the Saga series, but I haven't, dived into it. I believe I have some of them wishlisted on PlayStation. But this game looked cool. It looked a lot more modern than I thought. For some reason, I thought Saga was an older type game. The visual style is very reminiscent for me, like Tales of Arise. It looks like that to me. And it looked pretty cool. They had a lot of different characters with different weapons, and I just like kind of watched like one of the trailer like through a bit. And as part of this new story, they released new trailers too. So they have, I believe, 2 new trailers. One about a singing character, I believe, called Diva, or like she is a diva, and a second one is called the final trailer, which I just kind of skimmed through. They showed just a fuck ton of characters just like fighting. And so if you're interested in Saga Emerald, the trailers are out. I'm not going to be reacting to that trailer, and there's also another trailer for Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, which I'm also not going to react to. But yeah, that is also a trailer that is out. The reason I'm not reacting to these trailers is because if I do, it is purely going to be from someone who knows nothing about the games, which I'm not sure is interesting. If I'm reacting to a trailer, it's either for like a game series I know and love, or if it's something that I know somewhat about. So for Elden Ring, I did play some of it, so I could give some thoughts. And like, I believe I did East, which I fucking love. So for these trailers, it would literally be me being like, oh, this is cool, wow. And that's all it would be. So I'm not going to react to those, but those trailers are out for those game series. Other than that, this I thought was very cool. When I saw this, I was like, whoa, I didn't expect that. But I talked about Trails Through Daybreak a few episodes ago, which is the new trail series that is happening that takes place in the Calvary region. And the new story is Trails Through Daybreak 2 is coming to Japan on Switch on July 25th, which is, I always knew that Japan got these games sooner than the West, but when I saw this, I was like, damn, we don't even have the first one. But yeah, I had to make sure I did not look at the cover image because like I know there would probably be some spoiler on it. I don't want to know anything about that. What I found was interesting that they specifically mentioned Switch, so I'm not sure if like the actual sequel is already out on other systems and they're just bringing out Switch now, or if it's only Switch. I doubt it'd only be on Switch. That'd be freaking weird. But yeah, it's coming out on Switch July 25th in Japan only, which is very soon. Next piece of news is the Zenless Zone Zero game, or ZZZ. They're having a PS5 technical test that you can register for, and I believe the final date you can register is April 17th. So you have like about a week until, if you're watching this episode on the day it comes out, you have a week to register. I registered for it just to see the process so I can explain it to you guys, but it's more involved than just pressing a button. You have to kind of go through a survey. I kinda-ish rushed through it. It took me like 2-3 minutes to go through the survey. It pretty much just asks for your gaming habits, what systems you play on, what games you play, how many hours, and things like that. You can just fucking bullshit if you want, but I'm assuming there's a certain demographic they want to play the game because they said based on what you answer, they will reach out to you if you get into the closed beta. So yeah, that's a technical test. If you want to go into it, it's only for the PlayStation 5 from what I can tell. Hopefully I get into it. I mentioned that ZZZ looks super cool to me and I really want to try it out. And the next news story is that Disgaea 7 Complete has been announced for PlayStation 5, 4, and Switch. I believe this is Japan only right now, and the news story is that it's coming to consoles because it was only on PC before this, and this is a complete edition, so I'm assuming it comes with any extras, probably DLCs, items, and things like that. And I just want to talk about this because this has been a game that I've been kind of interested in, so I thought I'd talk about it for a bit. So let me just read the logline that I got from Steam. Dive into the demonic realm of Hinomoto, where the Bushido Code is out and the Hinomoto Code of Destruction is in. Consisting of a myriad of netherworlds, Hinomoto is home to a multitude of demons, each with their own beliefs. Enter Bushido fangirl Pirilika, a naive and rich young lady who manages to convince Fuji to protect her as she pursues her ambitions, but there's more to this contract that meets the eye, so be sure to check the fine print. Okay, so that's the logline. Now, the Disgaea games I have been interested in, especially because the older ones, you can like usually find them on sale for like straight up like $5 or something like that. And so like I've been thinking of maybe trying them, and the art style I think is not like perfectly to my taste, but like it's cool enough where I would try it. The only thing that's putting me off is that it's an SRPG, which I believe I talked about last episode or a couple of episodes ago, where I tried a few SRPGs, which is pretty much, I believe it stands for strategic RPG, which is more like grid-based combat, is more like technical and more specific in the way you fight. And I mentioned that I don't really like that compared to something like a Trails game where like it's almost like it's grid-based, but it's not. It's a bit more loose where you can kind of attack in area-based attacks instead of just like a specific grid. And so when I found out it was an SRPG, I was like, I'm not sure if I'll get into it. And every time I see screenshots, it looks like too crunchy for me, where there's like a lot going on. There's a fuck ton of UI. There's a lot of mechanics you gotta kind of get into. There's a fuck ton of characters. And so I don't know if I'll ever get into Disgaea because it seems like a lot, but it is something that I have been kind of keeping at the back of my mind. And since it's a complete edition now, this may be a great way to get introduced. But again, this is just for Japan right now. You can get the normal game in the West on the Steam, but yeah, Disgaea 7 Complete for PS5, 4, and Switch has been announced. And the last news story that I want to talk about, and I feel like this is the most interesting one personally for me, is that there is a JRPG-inspired turn-based fantasy RPG called Runa that was announced for PC. Now, this is interesting because, again, it says JRPG inspired, so it is not an actual JRPG. But from looking at the screenshots in the trailer, it looks really nice. You can tell they took their battle system UI from Persona. Like, they have, like, that cool UI where it says, like, square, triangle, X, circle, and has, like, item, spend, attack, and things like that. The game looks cool. His main weapon looks very JRPG-esque. The environments look dope. They have, like, these huge fucking swords, kind of, like, aged as stone by this waterfall. The thing is, I was looking at these screenshots. They look really freaking cool. I like the UI design too. The chat boxes look like very Persona-like too, but with more like it looks like scraps of paper, the text box pretty much. But when I actually watched the gameplay, I realized like, okay, this is very early in development because I'm not sure if anyone else has an eye for this, but I know I do, where there was kind of like this trend of for a certain amount of time where people would be releasing videos on YouTube saying like, oh, I made like a Dragon Ball game in Unreal 4 and people would fucking love it. And when you watch it, it was clearly some guy just took like some very base mechanics from Unreal and just put like a Goku skin on them and just played it. And like if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, where like the animations are very like simple. They're kind of like default animations. It doesn't really look that good. It doesn't really feel that good. It's just like it looks like something someone made like in a day. And this game, while visually it looks really cool, UI wise it looks really cool, and I feel like in terms of the art, they're almost final, like it looks like it. In terms of like the gameplay, it does not look like that, because in battle the animations look like what I was talking about, where like it looks very default. It doesn't look very polished, and it's very subtle things. Like, if you look at the trailer and you don't know what I'm talking about, you might think like, nah, this looks fucking great, but like I can tell like it's kind of rough, and it makes sense because I'm assuming this is actually early in development because they are going to open a Kickstarter soon, and I believe the date was April 16th. So yeah, they're going to be opening a Kickstarter on April 16th for this game. I'll be honest, it looks really cool to me. I really love the cover art. I love the character designs. I love the environment, the world. Like I'm really loving everything about it except for the fact that it doesn't look too polished to me, but I think I'm gonna keep my eye on it. Technically, it's not a JRPG. I believe it is by an American studio, so we'll see how that goes, because at least for me, I can very much tell the differences between a Western game and a Japanese game. The themes are usually different, but if these guys are very much trying to go the JRPG route and try to stick to like JRPG tropes and gameplay styles and things like that, I think that'll be fine. I don't think you necessarily have to be a Japanese developer to make a JRPG, as you can probably tell from my podcast. I cover like a lot of non-Japanese games. But yeah, Runa, R-U-N-A, I just thought it was very interesting, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. But that pretty much rounds out our JRPG news section, and so we will move right along to our next section, which is JRPGs that are releasing this week. Like always, the segment of JRPGs releasing this week are sourced from icicledisaster.com and rpgsite.net, and the JRPGs that are releasing this week are none. That's all. Now let's move on to the next segment, which is the JRPG mechanic that I think is pretty dope. And going straight into it, the mechanic I chose, or like a trope, and this again is not specific to JRPGs. You can talk about this in different media, but I just thought I would bring it up, especially because it's kind of related to Sun Wukong, which I talked about earlier in this episode. But I want to talk about the chosen one trope, or the special/different trope. And the reason I want to bring it up because I think I have a different viewpoint from the majority, at least from what I can tell. Anytime I see this trope talked about in like online discussions, I see a lot of people kind of getting mad whenever they find out the main character of a series is like the chosen one, or they're different or special compared to the rest. And I never understood why. I think it's fine. And one thing I will say, this segment will have spoilers for a lot of random things. I probably won't be like a last episode I mentioned how I would be like adding music and a visual indicator for whenever I spoil a certain series. I'm going to be talking about so much series in this segment and kind of sporadically talking about them. I probably won't do that for this segment. So if any of these series you're sensitive about, the Trails games, Kingdom Hearts, I'm going to be talking about some anime like One Piece, Naruto, Dragon Ball, My Hero Academia, Full Metal Alchemist, things of that nature. If any of those you're sensitive to spoilers, I would say just skip the segment and just go to the last segment of the podcast. But if you don't care, you feel free to watch. I'm still gonna like mention the series before I say the spoiler in case you do want to kind of play fast and loose and dodge it. But yeah, there are going to be spoilers in this segment. But yeah, the chosen one trope pretty much is where the main character is special compared to the rest of them, and that's why they're able to do what they do. And the reason I've always been fine with this trope is because in a way this trope makes it so the story is more believable. Because for example, say if there's a story and there's a villain who had taken over the world for 100 years and out of nowhere this main character came and beat them in a year, it would feel fucking weird if that main character was not the chosen one. Like, why out of the 100 years was this specific character able to best this villain who was able to rule over the entire Earth for 100 years? Like, there has to be something special about him. Like, it doesn't make sense that it would just be an ordinary character that's the same as everyone. Like, I honestly think that's kind of boring, which is why I like the chosen one trope. And that's why I believe when it's used, it is fine. And there's also, like, there's these chosen one trope, and I want to say there's, like, a trope that's not the chosen one, but, like, it's when the main character is special. What I mean by that is, I feel like the chosen one trope is where if you take that character and you replace them with, if you take a main character that's the chosen one, and you replace it with an ordinary character, the story can't happen because you need the chosen one character because he was the chosen one to actually continue. And let me see, I guess an example is the Sun Wukong game. He's clearly the destined one, the chosen one. I'm assuming there's probably some prophecy that says that he's going to do something, and if you probably replace him with some random dude, they probably wouldn't be able to do the story because they are not the chosen one. They're not able to do it. It's only Sun Wukong who can continue to the story. So by definition, he is the chosen one. He is literally called the destined one in the game. But then there's the other aspect where technically you're not special in terms of being a chosen one, but you're special in terms that you are different than the other characters. And another example I'll just make up right now is, say there was a game or a series where like everyone is able to use magic, and say at birth you're able to inherit one type of magic, and that's the world. But for some reason this main character can use 5 forms of magic. Technically, that's not a chosen one thing because maybe that could have happened to any other character, but it does make them special. It does give them an advantage over everyone else, and they are special in some way. Like, they are different from everyone else. And again, it would make sense if that person was able to defeat the bad guy because they are objectively more powerful than everyone else because they can wield more spells. That's just an example I made up, but like, that's an example where it technically is not a chosen one story because you could probably replace that character with another random character who had that ability, and it would go fine. But yeah, you could kind of think of that as chosen one, but like that's an example where they are different from other characters. And again, that's something I'm fine with too, because if that character was normal and they were only able to use one magic spell like everyone else, why was that character able to beat the bad guy? Like, that's very hard to believe in most instances, and so falling onto the trope of chosen one makes sense in that case. And so the rest of the segment, I'm just going to be talking about a couple of examples of chosen one and example of non-chosen one, so like I can explain why it works in both cases. One of the ones I'm going to talk about right now, so these are going to be spoilers for the Trails games. I'm going to start with Cold Steel, but also talk about the other one, so if you don't want that, just leave the segment. But with the Trails games, Trails of Cold Steel is a specific example where the main character is a chosen one. They are very special compared to everyone else. They not only can pilot this Gundam type thing in the series, he has one called Valimar, and so like he's already special. Even though there's like multiple other characters that can do that, he is special that he can do that. He has this weird ogre power that makes him very strong, and you find out is because at the end of the series is like this big reveal where like he has this thing in him. I won't go too deep into the spoilers because I don't really need to, but there is something special inside him that gives him the power. So like, by definition, again, he is a chosen one. You can't just have anyone replace him because he has this very specific power that only he has, and there's a reason that only he has it that you learn in the story. So that's an example where Reen in the Trails of Cold Steel games, there's literally a chosen one, and it works. Again, like what Reen does in the games and the bad guy he defeats at the end, like you kind of needed that specific level of chosen oneness for it to happen. You couldn't really replace it with another character, because if you could, the bad guy would be gone, because funnily enough, Reen is a chosen one, but he's not anywhere near the strongest character, which is what I love about the Trails games. You have a fuck ton of characters, you know, and there is a lot more characters that are stronger than Reen. Reen is not even close to the pinnacle of strong characters in the games. Yet the bad guy has always existed because Reen was a chosen one, and also he is in a very specific position where he is able to fight the bad guys, where the more powerful characters either are just not able to fight them, or they're in specific positions or like positions of authority where they're not able to fight the bad guy. And so you kind of have this very specific scenario of the main character being in a specific position of where he is in life and having a certain power which allows him to fight the bad guy, which is pretty much a good example of being the chosen one, and that works for this game. If Reen was just a dude who was able to fight like anyone else and he beat the bad guy, honestly, by the end of the game, I'd be like, how? Like, why? Why the fuck were you able to beat the bad guy? Especially because when you learn that the bad guy was really, in essence, a bad guy that's been existing for a very fucking long time and has been like plaguing the country for a long ass time, and randomly a guy would just be able to beat it. Like, no, that doesn't make any sense. There's a very specific reason why Reen was able to beat it, and it's because he was the chosen one. So that, I think, is a good example of why the chosen one trope makes sense and it works well. One example where I thought it was a chosen one, but thinking about it more, I don't think it is, and that's Kingdom Hearts with Sora. Like, I don't remember the story of Kingdom Hearts very deeply, but like, I believe if you take Sora out of the story and replace him with another boy, the story can still happen. Sure, Sora has some like characteristics of him being kind of very optimistic, and he's able to bond with people like a lot easier, kind of like the very basic shonen tropes. He has like those tropes, but there's nothing specifically special about him or chosen one about him. Like, you could replace him with any character, and technically the story can go the way it did. It can go through of him getting down on Goofy, getting the power of the Keyblade, blah blah blah, and going through and going to the end. His personality helped with it, but there's nothing very chosen one about it. So that's an example where like Sora is not technically a chosen one, but that also does make it special that like he was able to do what he did. So it kind of does add credence to the fact that like he persevered more than someone who was chosen, which is like another positive for not being a chosen one. So that was just an example that I also want to mention too. I'm not going too deep into it because I straight up don't remember the deep lore of Kingdom Hearts anymore. But like, I was just thinking about Kingdom Hearts, like I'm like, yeah, Sora's a chosen one, but then the more I thought about it, I'm like, I don't think he is, because he technically can be replaced by anyone, and it probably would have worked out if they had like a similar enough personality to Sora. So yeah, that's an example of not being a chosen one. And I have some more examples here, but these are like non-video game related. So like anime, I thought like I would bring up because chosen one is like very much entrenched in anime and things like that. So some series, Naruto is a huge example of being a chosen one. I remember when I read Naruto for the first time a few years ago. I had known really nothing about it, and I always thought it was funny because I was always wondering like how Naruto could do what he did, because I knew he was like obviously going to become Hokage and stuff. That kind of stuff I already knew, but I was like, why can he fucking make like 1,000 clones and all that? And then you realize pretty much from like frame one that he is special. Not only does he have Kurama inside him, but he read like a forbidden jutsu scroll, and he's able to do like 1,000 clones pretty easily. Like, a lot of it seemed like kind of fucking weird, where I'm like, okay, like you're clearly special and different from everyone, because if it was that easy to be able to do 1,000 clone jutsu, anybody could have just looked at the scroll and done it. But like, clearly there's something special about him, and he also had Kurama, which gave him that advantage over like a lot of other characters. He has a fuck ton of chakra and things like that. So that's an example where he clearly was more important and special than a lot of the other characters, and literally that is the reason why he is able to best them and become the Hokage. Obviously his personality is involved too, but he very much is a chosen one, and if you replace him with another random dude, it probably wouldn't work out the same way. Another example is a One Piece. One Piece is an example, so there's gonna be One Piece spoilers, which is funny because a lot of people thought One Piece was a story about a dude, which is just like a random guy. He's just like a fucking, like a person who's low on the totem pole, and he's doing really fucking good. But if you're caught up with the manga, or I think the anime too, the anime has this too now, where like he is very much the chosen one. He is very much special, and he is from the start been chosen to defeat the bad guy that's going to be at the end of the series. So that is an example of chosen one too. I don't want to go too deep into the spoilers, but One Piece was thought of being a story that wasn't about a chosen one, but now if you're caught up to it, you clearly know that it is a story like that. One more example that is about a chosen one, just really quickly, Demon Slayer. Tanjiro is kind of related to the clan that had that person who beat the fuck out of Muzan, and like, I feel like if you had someone that wasn't Tanjiro, the story wouldn't be able to happen, especially because Muzan was a bad guy for a very fucking long time, and now this random boy came out and beat his fucking ass with the pillars. He had to be a chosen one for that to happen. It wouldn't really make sense with any other character. And lastly, let's finish it off with some series that work that don't have chosen ones. I feel like one very popular example is Dragon Ball. I believe that Goku is not a chosen one. He straight up was like a low-class warrior, and now he's a fucking god, but there's really nothing special about him. The one thing that kind of goes against this, and I wouldn't say this is a chosen one, but like in one of the more recent arcs in Dragon Ball Super, there was like a flashback of Bardock pretty much making a wish to the Dragon Ball, saying like, it was something akin to like, hopefully my kids prosper or some shit like that. And so like you can say it was because of that wish is why Goku is doing really well, but like overall he is not the chosen one. It's not like Goku was related to some like famous royal Saiyan line and he's doing really well because of that, or because he has like this intrinsic power. It's nothing like that. Goku, Vegeta, whoever, they're all like the same. If anything, the other characters have more of an advantage over Goku, but Goku is just literally built different in terms of like the work ethic he puts in, and that's why he's like an inspiration to a lot of people, because he straight up started at the bottom and he's fucking a god now because he worked for it. He is literally the opposite of a chosen one, and I think that's like the best example of not being a chosen one and it really working out. I guess I can also talk about My Hero Academia with Deku, where he technically isn't a chosen one in terms of him being special. Like, it's not like he has like a famous bloodline or anything, but he is an example of where he is special in terms of he is different from the other characters. Everyone has one quirk. Not only does he have a very fucking powerful quirk, he's able to use like 7 other quirks or whatever because he has a lot of quirks. So that already makes him special. And I kind of really like this as an example because you have a direct comparison of the opposite, which is My Hero Academia Vigilantes. If you read that, it is a side manga spin-off off of My Hero Academia, which I actually prefer to the main series, where there's a main character there. His name is Koichi. He has a very normal fucking quirk where he can just repel stuff with his limbs. So if he attaches, like, if he just goes on all fours on the ground, he can repel the ground a bit and kind of like drift around. That's his power. But throughout the series, you see him evolve that one power to something very special. But it's not because he was the chosen one. It's not even because he was special. It's because he's just very smart with his power. So he slowly becomes able to use that drifting power. He's able to get faster. He's able to shoot blasts out of his hands because he repels harder. He's able to create shields by repelling around him. He's able to fly at some point. So he just keeps on evolving his power. And nothing about it is because of him being special. It's just that he took his quirk and used it to his advantage. And honestly, it's something that I wish the main series did more, where Deku just seems like he has like all these fucking powers now, even though I know Deku is a smart guy and he would be able to use one quirk really well. But I feel like Koichi is a very good example of he is not a chosen one, he is not different from other characters, but he's able to do a lot of good shit as a vigilante because he's just smart with his quirk. But yeah, that's just a small discussion I want to have for a chosen one trope, because I just see discussions all the time online of people being like, the chosen one trope sucks, or when a long running manga like One Piece reveals that it was about a chosen one, they straight up just fall off the series, which I never understand. So I just want to give my thoughts about it, especially because I feel like I'm on the side of the minority, at least when it comes to an online perspective, where it seems like I'm in the minority. Maybe I'm not, but yeah, that was my thoughts on a JRPG trope, in quotes, that I thought was interesting. And from that, we will move on to the final, very quick segment, which is the JRPG casual top list. Okay, so the final segment is the JRPG casual top list, and yeah, I'll be honest, I was having a very hard time thinking of a topic for this one, and so this is a very fucking stupid top list. In keeping with the spirit of Sun Wukong, the list I'm going to be doing is the top monkeys in gaming. That was the best I could think of, and this list is just fucking stupid. It doesn't even have like Donkey Kong or anything. I just picked like 3 random monkey-esque creatures which I know and I kind of like in gaming. So let's rattle them off real quick and I'll talk about whoever I want to. So this is a top 3 list. At number 3, it is Rajang from Monster Hunter. At number 2, it is that monkey enemy from East. I'll talk about that more later. At number 1 is Monkey D. Luffy. No more elaboration needed. Okay, number 3 is Rajang from Monster Hunter. I really like this monster in Monster Hunter. I remember when I first fought it, I was playing Monster Hunter with my brother, and it was really fucking cool. And it's funny because I feel like Rajang is probably maybe slightly based on Sun Wukong too, because it straight up has a mode where it turns Super Saiyan, like it turns golden and stuff, which is really cool. So I really liked fighting the monster. It was very hard. It was very interesting, the moveset. So I just like, in terms of monsters, it really stuck out to me, and I really enjoyed that, so that's why it's at number 3. Number 2 is the monkey enemies from East. Now, what's funny is I tried Googling to find a picture of it just so I could refresh how it looks. I cannot find a single fucking thing about this enemy on Google. I cannot find a picture. I cannot find an image, but I know it exists because I believe this is in multiple East games, but if you're kind of going around the field and you kind of notice a lot of different monsters, there's this specific monster which looks like a very big gorilla looking monkey thing that is usually stronger than the normal monsters. And if you fight it, it can usually beat the fuck out of you. And I'm not 100% sure, but I want to say they're also in the Trails games too, I think. But I'm not 100% sure, because I'm pretty sure it's in the East games, because I remember fighting it in a real-time combat game, and the Trails games are turn-based. And so, yeah, they're these large gorilla enemies, and they're usually an indication of, like, these are stronger enemies, you probably shouldn't fight them, but they do exist. And so, they come at number 2. And at number 1, we have the homie Monkey D. Luffy. Is he an actual monkey? No. Is he named Monkey? Yes. Is he goated? Yes. Does he have video games? Yes. So therefore he's on the list. And that is all. So that's gonna be the end of this episode. Like I mentioned, yeah, it is shorter than usual, I believe. So yeah, hopefully we should be getting more into the regular strat of things next week. Hopefully I'll have more games that I've played to talk about. Hopefully there's more news. The news has been kind of slow for the last few episodes. There hasn't been like too many big pieces of news as there were when the podcast first started. So hopefully we have more of that. And yeah, thank you guys for watching or listening to episode 10 of Spill the Tearal. If you guys like the episode, please leave a like down below. If you guys have any thoughts, leave a comment. At some point in the future, once this podcast is big enough, I do want to add a segment that is listener focused. So like if you guys have any questions, I can just like answer them or talk about it, or like you guys could send in discussion topics. That'd be super cool. There's obviously a long ways away if this podcast ever like launches off, but like that is something I really want to do in the future too. So that is one thing that I've been thinking about. So yeah, leave a comment if you have any comment about anything in the episode. If you want to just put a smiley face, I'd appreciate that too, because it does help. If you are new, subscribe. If you don't like to see my face and you want to listen to this audio only, I have this podcast on pretty much every major audio service. Just search Spill the Tearal or check the description on YouTube and you'll see all the links to all these services that it is on. So yeah, that is pretty much it. Next week we'll be back with Spill the Tearal episode 11, and I will see you next time. Peace.